The moment he stepped into the café, carrying the weight of another exhausting day on his shoulders, the single father noticed her before he even noticed the stairs. She was sitting alone at a small table near the window, her shoulders slumped, hands wrapped tightly around a cooling cup of coffee, eyes shining with quiet humiliation. He recognized that posture instantly, the posture of someone who had been left behind. And when realization hit him that this woman was his ex's mother, abandoned on a blind date, something deep inside him stirred, something stronger than pride, stronger than old wounds, stronger than fear. If you believe that kindness can still change lives and that people deserve second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Soul Tale. Stories like this exist because hearts like yours still care. He had not planned to stay long. His babysitter was on the clock, his bank account was always tight, and his mind was usually occupied by schedules, school lunches, and the quiet ache of raising a child alone after a marriage that collapsed under misunderstandings and silence. Yet as he stood there, briefcase hanging from one hand, he saw how the other diners whispered, how eyes flickered toward the woman with sympathy mixed with judgment. Her blind date had never returned from the restroom. Minutes had turned into an hour, and everyone knew it. The single dad felt the familiar pull of responsibility rise inside him, the same instinct that made him work late nights and wake up early for his child, the instinct that refused to look away when someone was hurting. His past with this family was complicated. His divorce had not been loud or violent, but it had been deeply painful, layered with unmet expectations and the slow erosion of love. His ex's mother had once been warm toward him, offering meals, advice, and encouragement when he and her daughter were still trying to build a life together. After the separation, distance grew and silence replaced those small kindnesses. Seeing her now, reduced to a forgotten presence in a public space, brought back memories he thought he had buried. He saw not his ex's mother, but a woman aging alone, trying to be brave enough to hope again. The cafe buzzed with soft music and clinking cups, but for him, everything slowed. He imagined how it must have felt for her, dressing carefully, convincing herself that it was not too late for companionship, only to be left behind without explanation. He thought of his own loneliness after bedtime when his child slept and the house echoed with quiet. Without overthinking, he pulled out the chair across from her and sat down beside her, not as a hero, not as someone making a statement, but simply as a human refusing to let another human disappear in shame. The reaction around them was immediate. Conversations paused, curious glances sharpened. Some recognized him as the hardworking single father who passed by the cafe each evening. Others recognized her and remembered the man who used to be part of her family. No one understood why he would sit there, especially knowing the history. Yet what they did not see was the battle inside him, the effort it took to silence resentment, to choose compassion over comfort. Sitting there meant reopening old chapters, risking misunderstanding, and stepping into emotional vulnerability he rarely allowed himself. Time moved differently once he sat beside her. The humiliation on her face softened into surprise, then gratitude. He stayed, not filling the air with empty words but offering presence, something rare and powerful. The cafe staff, sensing the shift, treated the table with renewed respect. A fresh cup of coffee appeared. The whispers faded. In that simple act of sitting down, he changed the story unfolding in that room. She was no longer the woman who had been abandoned. She was someone worth staying with. As minutes passed, he felt something inside himself shift too. He realized how much of his life had been about survival, about pushing through days without acknowledging his own need for connection. Raising a child alone had taught him strength, but it had also taught him how to close parts of his heart. Sitting there reminded him that kindness did not weaken him, it strengthened him. It reminded him that dignity is something we can offer others even when our own hearts are still healing. The woman eventually gathered herself, her posture straightening, her eyes steadier. The shame that once weighed on her seemed lighter, replaced by quiet dignity. People around them returned to their meals, but something had changed. The cafe felt warmer, softer, as if everyone had witnessed a small but powerful moment of humanity. The single dad knew he could leave at any time, yet he stayed long enough to ensure she would not walk out alone. Later, as he stepped back into the evening air, the weight on his chest felt different, lighter but also deeper. He returned home to his child, helped with homework, read a bedtime story, and tucked them in with the same devotion as always. But that night, when the house fell silent, he did not feel as alone as he usually did. He understood that life was not only about protecting himself from pain, but also about choosing kindness even when it cost something. Days later, word spread quietly. People spoke not of drama, but of decency, of a man who could have walked away but chose not to, of a moment that reminded others to be gentler, more aware, more human. The single dad never sought praise, yet the impact of that choice rippled outward in ways he never expected. It gave the woman courage to try again, not just in dadding, but in believing she still mattered. And it gave him something too, a renewed faith that love, in its many forms, still had a place in his life. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of someone who once showed you unexpected kindness, please take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need them most. Before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below and tell us whether you believe small acts of kindness can truly change lives. In the end, it was not about a blind date or a failed marriage or public embarrassment. It was about a single decision made by a tired father who refused to look away. In a world that often moves too fast to notice pain, he chose to sit down.